Hello, everyone. I would love to welcome you to the Parent and Family Services Tiger Talk. This is our third Tiger Talk installment for the spring 2025 semester, and we're excited to have our campus partners from Career Services here with us today to share information with you and answer your questions about the different options for career preparation and career services, all the things that they provide for students and alumni. So, if you have a question that isn't covered by the questions that have already been submitted, feel free to put that question in the chat and we'll make sure those questions get answered in the live session. If you're watching this later, if you have a question, you can feel free to reach out to us and email parents@memphis.edu, and we'd be glad to forward your question along to our campus partners in career services so that you can get those questions answered as well. But we thank you all for being here or for listening in. Please share this with any other families that you know that are interested in how we support students through career services. But we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Heather Hampton, and I'm Assistant Director for Parent and Family Services, and I'll toss it over to Kate.
Hello, everyone. My name is Cade Forbes, and I serve as the coordinator for Parent and Family Services.
All right, and we have a special guest with us today, the Associate Director for Career Services, Mr. Cortez Washington. We also invited Mitzi Eigelhart, but we're having a little bit of technical difficulty, so we're going to try to get her on board here if we can. But they have some great information, and so I'll go ahead and start with the first item of the day, which is for Cortez. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey here at the U of M and also with Career Services.
All right. Everyone that's on the call, I just want to, bid you a good afternoon. And then before I get started with answering your question, Heather, I want to just say how important the work that, yourself and Kate, are doing with family and parent services is such a essential function of this university. With all of the fall and spring preview days that we're at, I always see you guys out there with a great attitude and talking to a lot of students. So again, I appreciate the work that you do, and I'm sure that many other people on campus. But I will say my name is Cortez Washington. I am the current Associate Director of Career Services, working directly under Director Alicia Rose Henderson, one of the most greatest leaders that I've had the pleasure of working with in my, educational career. Started in recruiting in LA. I lived in LA for about 10 years. Even though I'm from Arkansas, after college, I lived in LA for about 10 years. Started out with recruiting for Warner Brothers, Sony, the city of LA, and then went on to become an employment specialist, just, honing my skills and, my competencies within that field. Further fell in love with it because I have such a passion for people and their career choices. I was wondering why you chose this major or that field and trying to connect their passions, curious about and always energetic about. Relocated back home and director of career services for ASU Mid South over in West Memphis, Arkansas for about 5 years. And then had the blessing to come over to the University of Memphis. And I've been here for currently 5 years. So that's my journey in a nutshell.
Awesome. Alrighty. So getting right into the work that you do with Career Services. So, what is the purpose and mission of Career Services?
Well, and I don't want this to sound biased just because I work in this field, right? But we are just like yourself. I think we're one of the most important and essential offices at the university. And I say that again, not to be biased because I'm working in this industry, but when you look at the data, over 95% of students come to college for what? A career. So
Right.
it just makes sense that our office, gets the resources that is needed, gets the support that's needed because I call students our bosses. If they weren't here, I wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. So if students are saying at a 95% and over rate that, hey, we're going to go to college, take a risk on education because that's why we're here, it's up to us to make sure that we're giving them relevant information, helping them to understand trends in the marketplace, and helping them to become more competitive when it comes to getting those internships, experiential learning opportunities, or careers. We don't like to use the word jobs here. We want people to have careers.
Right, that makes a lot of sense. It kind of makes it put it in a perspective of something lifelong or a journey when you say career versus job and connects those, as you mentioned, passions earlier. So, what services does Career Services offer for for current students and also for students who maybe have graduated a few years ago or many years ago?
Right. That's a great question. We like to tailor our services depending on the student's needs. So, of course, the resume and the cover letter, it's not going to get you the job, but it's possibly going to get you the interview. So, we have to make sure that we start there. Along the way, we also help students, once they get that interview, how prepared, how comfortable and confident are they with that process? Because it can be very intimidating, right? So we offer mock interview sessions where we can do a recordings to where students can kind of look back at the video and see kind of where they had some mishaps or mistakes. And we offer that constructive feedback. It's not to tear the student down or to make them feel bad, but it's to make sure that they are, very prepared for that process because, like I said earlier, it can be very, very intimidating for a student. Some of the other services that we offer is, just helping students with understanding how to network, whether that's, with alumni or on LinkedIn, Indeed, just other resources like that, because we know that's where a lot of the careers are. And so we teach them how to connect with that professional, have career specialists that students can meet with one-on-one. So that how we like to call it talent community. So you have a variety of majors that students can go onto our handshake platform. And if they want to schedule an appointment with a career specialist, they can do that very, very takes a couple of seconds to schedule those appointments to where students can have that one-on-one time and get that attention that they need. So when it comes to interviewing, searching for internships, what does that look like? How do I search for a job? Like some students don't even know the proper way to do that. So we also have people that can help them with that, which are our career specialists. So those are just some of the services that we offer here.
Cool.
Awesome.
So, oh, go ahead, Kate. I'm sorry.
Oh
You're
yeah,
good.
I
You're
like
good.
it. You guys are ready to throw the
We're
questions at me.
excited. We're like, yay, next
Right.
question.
Yeah, so lots of great services. And I feel like a lot of times with career services, so many students do not know, like they might know that it's there, but they might not know just how much you actually do, and how much, they can truly benefit from that, especially going into post grad and like that whole era that can be very confusing. So speaking of kind of that era, so our next question is what career exploration resources are available for students who are undecided about their career path?
Yeah, you guys put some great thought into these questions. But to your credit, they're very relevant questions. So a lot of students come in maybe because of and not to offend anyone on the call, but because of it's some pressure from their parents, right? So students can come in wanting to do a certain they may want to go down a certain pathway because of the pressure from their parents or to impress their friends or their network versus really, really tapping into what they want to do. Students may, for example, well, what does that mean? Students may have a true, but they may hear from other people, well, what are you going to do with that in Memphis or the surrounding areas? How are you going to make money from that? There are several opportunities that you can make money in the field that you're passionate about. It's our job to, strategically show you how to network with the right people, how to articulate your skills that you're learning in your classroom, how to put that on a cover letter, and also how to relay that information concisely and clearly in an interview. There are opportunities for all majors. It's just how you are marketing yourself, and articulating the skills and showing employers, hey, I bring value because of my education, right? So when it comes to different platforms, we have a platform called What Can I Do with This Major? It's one of my favorite platforms. It's very comprehensive. A student can go on and say, hey, I'm majoring in calculus or math. It's going to give you anywhere from 25 to 50, if not more, different career pathways that you can take with a math degree. Not only will it name the jobs, it's going to show you strategies on what you should be doing as a freshman, what you should be doing as a junior to align yourself with those careers. We don't want you waiting until your senior year before you're going to graduate. It's too much pressure, too much panic. We want you to start as a freshman understanding these things. We also have the platform, I think I mentioned this earlier, called Handshake. This is not just a Shelby County or Memphis district platform. This is nationwide. So if students, now of course we want to retain talent, but if students are like me and they want to, relocate to, get away from Memphis, or if they want to stay, these are national jobs, national careers that they can apply for through that system. Now, we also have another system, and we have several resources, but I'll name the top three. We have another resource named Stepping Blocks. Cade brought up a great point earlier. There are a lot of students on campus, but unfortunately, they don't know what career services is or the impact. We're actually working on some career services modules now. We actually just finished up yesterday. Mitzi was the lead on this project. It's unfortunate she's not on the call, but she was the lead on this project. And just to give you a quick abstract, through that system, prospective students that come in, freshmen, we want to get it to where they have to go through these modules via Canvas mandatory. That way, everyone will know about career services and everything that's offered. And we also made it very, very video heavy because we know fan and things like that. So we made it very student friendly in hopes that the success and from the data and our surveys is so good that it's going out college wide to all students. So there's no choice for everyone not to know about what we're doing. So those are just some of the things that we're working on. Stepping blocks. I know you mentioned something about alumni earlier. Stepping blocks is another great tool that shows students direct information as far as which jobs are hiring alumni from that graduated from the University of Memphis. What are their starting salaries? What are their current salaries? Now, it will not give you the names. I can see the names because I have back end access, but it'll give a student that information to know, hey, if I'm majoring in psychology or if I'm majoring in music, I can see students that graduated from the University of Memphis with the same major, and here are the companies that are hiring them. So those are just some of the platforms that we have for students.
All I can say is, wow, there's a lot of resources on campus that you all provide for students and families. If you're listening, make sure that you encourage your students to take advantage of those resources, even if they are just starting out in college. There's so much that they'll miss if they wait. So definitely want to take advantage of those resources and the ones that aren't even mentioned that you may find there. And it kind of leads to our next question. You touched on this a little bit before about career specialists and students connecting with them through the various platforms. But just to kind of give families an idea of what exactly does a career specialist do, I kind of imagine it to be similar to like their academic advisor, where the advisor is advising them on what classes to take and what the schedule's going to look like and what they need to complete their degree. So is a career specialist kind of similar to that relationship? Just kind of touch a little bit more on what they do and how students can work with them.
Yes. So there are some similarities between an academic advisor and a career specialist. The academic advisor, like you mentioned, is going to focus on academics, right? The career
Hmm.
specialist is going to focus primarily on career education and career readiness. Now,
Hmm.
what that looks like is when you think about careers, workforce education, everything that goes under that umbrella is what our people are, trained and specialize in. So, for example, over 90% of women we know do not negotiate their salaries. That's unfortunate. Our career specialists are trained to teach young ladies and walk them through that process. If the employer says this, how do you respond? Temperament, demeanor, mindset, attitude, etc. Like I mentioned earlier, the professional documents, cover letters. What is the purpose of a cover letter? Why do I even need that? We explain that to them. We also abide by the NACE competencies. So there are several professional competencies that companies from around the nation said, hey, if a student graduates from the University of Memphis, these are the top competencies that we're expecting them to have. So as a student starts off as a freshman learning communication, they understand effective communication and the difference between communicating in an email versus communicating in a text. Two different things, right? Technology. A lot of our students are already, pretty versed with technology, teamwork and what that looks like. Are you capable of working with someone with different beliefs or that may not look like you, right? Professionalism, what does that mean? So these are just some of the things that we teach simultaneously while students are working on their degree. I tell students all the time, obtaining your degree is a great thing, kudos. But if you can't be punctual to an employer, having your degree as a nurse, when someone is in a hospital that needs you and you can't show up to work on time, you're not going to have that career long. So you
That's
have
right.
to, right? So you
That's
have to
right.
develop your professional competencies while you're getting your degree at the same time. You have to do it at the same time.
Awesome. All righty. So you kind of mentioned a little bit about this a little earlier, but our next question specifically asks what steps should students take each year, starting with their freshman year, to kind of improve their chances of securing a job after graduation?
Okay. Um, I think students need to be prepared first about the job market. And I say that because it is extremely, and I'm going to say this again, it is extremely competitive. Now, imagine a student who's submitting 30 applications a week and they're constantly being rejected. That can lead into a false sense of confidence. That can lead into depression. That can lead into a student even dropping out of college because they're thinking, like, okay, I'm not getting anywhere with this, right? So I think if we have those conversations and prepare students mentally for what they can expect, I think they'll have an increased chance of being successful. Other steps I think they need to take. I've already mentioned about getting the degree being such a great thing. We have a lot of first generation students on our campus that come from families that, they probably went to eighth grade of high school. So you have all of those barriers that students um, you know, have to get through just to be successful. But working with a career specialist early, not waiting until your senior year, um, developing deep relationships with faculty. Faculty and parents are some of the most important pieces because faculty, that's where they have to be. They got to go to class. And the parents are the parents, right? That's why I think what you guys do is so important. So having those, I like to call them allies aligned, I think it'll give us as a university a greater chance of retaining students because they have that support. Um, Another thing I would say to do is be be ex like be very open minded as far as like how are you volunteering? Everything does not have to be paid. If it's a great opportunity, if you're a freshman or a sophomore, you may not have the skills to know how to network or to go up to an employer and spark a conversation. We like to call them elevator pitches. Everyone's not comfortable with that. I think nationally, the number one most feared thing to do for people is public speaking. So imagine you see me sitting in a suit and you're gonna ask a freshman to walk across the aisle and come shake my hand and introduce themselves and all of that. It's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, I
So
definitely agree with that.
right. So I feel like having students to get on Career Odyssey, which that's on our University of Memphis website through student leadership and involvement. Get or student organizations on campus, whether they're clubs or fraternities, sororities. Starting out with those types of experiences, even though you're not getting paid for them, guess what? We can still help you spend that to an employer as experiences, even though you're not getting paid. Now, the other benefit of that is you're developing skills while you're doing that. So even though you're doing the activity, we have to teach students how to articulate what they're doing to the employer or for that internship, et cetera, when it comes to their interviews.
That's so true. We tell students all the time. Even I was just talking to a young lady yesterday about her involvement because she had a little bit of work experience,
Mm-hmm.
but she had a lot of student organization involvement, and we talked about how to translate that and to
Mm-hmm.
show the skills that she's learned from being involved, being an officer, taking notes, planning events, taking a leadership role in things, and just some things that she wasn't thinking about. So I think
Right.
that's very important for students to kind of be able to capture the skills that they're not thinking about because it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't necessarily on a paid gig or a paid job. So that's very
Right.
important reminder that, and I'm glad you brought that up to families so that they can help their students. Hey, remember when we volunteered at XYZ and you did this? And that's something because the student that I talked to was really concerned that her resume was not going to be robust because she hadn't really had that work experience. But after we talked, she felt really confident about being able
Right.
to add some things to her resume through the other experiences that she had. So I'm really glad you said that.
Well, Heather, I'm gonna add another little nugget for
Mhm,
the parents that are listening. A lot of students that I've noticed, they will have their volunteer experience on the resume. What
mhm,
they don't do is they don't put what they did.
mm,
They'll just list the experience. But I tell students all the time, hey, if you are doing fundraising in some type of student organization or volunteer, you have to use the formula performing A to do B, resulting in C. Well,
mhm,
Cortez, what does that even mean? It means even in those volunteer experiences, you need to show your value. What did you perform? And because of what you performed, what was the outcome of that? If you can use qualitative or quantitative information, great. But if not, showing your value and what were some of the outcomes, I like to call them accomplishments or highlights. That's what our office encourages students to do, even if it's a weekend volunteer experience.
that's good. So another family member asked about they say they know that their student would benefit from having an internship, and that's another. I know there are some paid internships, but there are a lot of unpaid internships, and that goes to speak back to what you were saying about not everything has to be something that was paid, and the different skills and experiences that you get from that. So, what would you consider, I'd say, the top three tips for family members that they can relay to their students about searching for and applying for internships? And maybe even explain or remind everybody, because we hear the word internship, but what actually is an internship so that families are clear on that too.
Right. Well, companies all across the country offer internships at certain quarters. Quarter is every 3 months. So you may now with an internship, students have deadlines. So the first tip I would say is to make sure that the student is very organized and that they understand the internship deadline so that they don't miss an opportunity. Another tip that I would say is utilize your allies. You have an entire department that's dedicated to helping you. Now, we're not a placement agency, but what we can do is we have housed employment opportunities and internships. We have a network of alumni who are professionals that can, refer you to certain positions, et cetera. We have Handshake, which houses the job and internship boards. We do professional networking events with our alumni. We actually just did one last night in a partnership with
Miss
Miss
U of M.
University, Miss U of
Yeah,
M.
Miss
Sorry,
University.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
We just did one. We did a partnership with her, and it was a very successful event. We also have career fairs, and we have two all major career fairs each year. And also, you know that there are other colleges on campus like Fogelman, the law school. They have their own set of career fairs, which we're not involved in. Um, Also have career fairs with Kimmons Wilson, that's on our campus, and more. So there are several opportunities. So I just to reiterate, use your campus resources to know who can point you in the right direction, so you're not doing all the heavy lifting on your own. Set three tips. So the last tip I would say is networking. Who A lot of times, unfortunately, it's not about a 3.8 GPA. It's about my relationship with Cade and his relationship with the hiring person and the power of his word to refer me. So,
Yeah.
how is my impression of that I made on Cade to give me a strong recommendation? Now, I like to talk about starting career conversations. Well, what is a career conversation? Conversation is you creating a LinkedIn profile, because look at 85% of employers on LinkedIn hire from that website. So why
Hmm.
not use it, right? Um,
That's good
so
to know.
right. So are you going to just message someone that you don't know asking for a job? No, you don't do that. That's not proper etiquette. So a career conversation is something like, "Hello, Cade. I noticed that you majored in XYZ and that you graduated from the University of Memphis. Man, I saw what you posted on your LinkedIn, and this is my thought about that post. I'm just starting a career conversation. I'm not asking him for anything. Another example can be, "Hey, Heather, I noticed that you're in this alumni group on the University of Memphis. Well, guess what? I'll be graduating. Um, Give the time. And I just wanted to connect with you because I have a class assignment. And what I would like to do is just take 15 minutes of your time to ask you some questions about why you chose your major." Now, just looking at your face, you look like a very nice person. I can't see you telling that student no. So those are just little, you know, fundamental strategies to create these career conversations. And we suggest that students start early. So the more time you have to speak with these people who are already in positions, you have cultivated a relationship with them to where they can, recommend you or be a referral for you. So those are my three tips.
That's really good. Good wisdom here coming through the screens today. So take advantage, parents, and tell your students start now with networking and finding those internships and utilizing the resources on campus. I mean, people pay big bucks for this type of resources and this type of information, but it's free for our students, and they got to take advantage of it. So,
Yes.
thank you for sharing those tips. I'll toss it over to Kate.
All right.
Alrighty, so this next question I can definitely relate to, a recent kind of post grad. I'm almost 2 years post grad, and when I first graduated, I was so lost, had no idea where I was going, what I was doing. So the question is, my student is so lost when it comes to their next step post graduation. What do you suggest for them?
Kay, I'm just going to be very raw. As many students as I talk to personally, or um, my team talks to, I think it's so important to let students know that they're not alone. Sound poetic or cliche, but it's very true. A lot of students feel like they're the only one with that thought. No, a lot of students feel lost. You know how many people that are in PhD programs who come to me and say, "Mr. Washington, I really don't know what I want to do." And they're at a PhD level. I only have my master's. So I still have to be able to look at the fundamentals of where they're coming from, because Career services is not a blanket service. It's an individual service. I have to come with Cade where he is. I have to come and have a conversation with Heather where you are. I can't just say the same thing to every student. So the first thing I would say is just let them know that they're not alone in that. I know I'm going to keep going back to meeting a career specialist, not because I'm biased, but that's just what we're here to do. I don't believe that people should be struggling alone. If you have an entire department that's devoted and dedicated to helping you to accomplish your goal, um, and one thing that I can say about our team here, and I'm not just saying this, Leisha does a great job at hiring people who really have a passion for helping students. Like, I see it. We really do care about a student's outcome, right? Whether like Kay mentioned, he's 2 years out. Well, how's it going for you? You're an alumni. Is there anything that career services can do? Not to take them away from you, Heather, but is this your career path right now? Is this
Don't
is it
take them
something
away.
else? Right? Like, and I'm not trying to do that, but just giving an example, like, because
Right.
this is the thing. There was no way when I was 12 or 18, I said, oh yeah, I want to be a director of career services. No, I didn't do that, right? This just happens to be one of my purposes. So one thing that I'm big on is letting students know a lot of the confusion that you have is because you have several different purposes. No one just has one thing that they do. That's why people are, well, I'm good at this. Well, I'm interested in this, or I'm interested in that. It's because we have multiple things that we're called to do. My job is to help you my job is to ask certain questions, open-ended questions to force you to critically think, and then you figure out what those purposes are. Once you do that, that's where you're going to see happiness. I know so many people are scrolling on TikTok, so many people are scrolling through Instagram talking about six figures, and that's going to make them happy. Guess what? I've been there. I was miserable for 2 years. I was high six figure, miserable for 2 years. I had bought my first home. I had the Range Rover, all of the bells and whistles that the world tells us is going to make us happy. I am living proof that that is not true for everyone. When you find out, what am I on earth here to do to help other people scale in whatever it is they want to do? That's a fulfillment that I can't even put into words.
Mm. So
So,
true.
yeah,
So true. That's good. That's a good reminder for me. So I'm gonna take that one. For real, about purpose. So you mentioned, I know Cade is an alumni, and I am as well, of the university. So how do you all engage alumni with networking? And how does that play in career preparation? And how can students connect with alumni? I think you've mentioned a few ways that they can connect. But how do you all engage alumni who maybe, at a point where students want to get to, but in making those connections?
that's a great question. Alumni are so critical to what we do, um, because it's almost like they are a glimmer of hope. The student can say, "This person was once where I am today, and look at where they are now." Right? They can see it. So we always try to, strategize and effectively have events on campus where students can come in and meet with these people and just ask their questions. There are no stupid questions. Like I said, we just had one last night. It was a great event. A lot of our alumni, we have a program called the Seeds of Success. One of our alumni, Mr. Mike Harless, he's one of the donors, and this is through the College of Arts and Sciences. um, Joji Castellon, which is the career services specialist that's over STEM, and myself put together a program called Season Success, where we have 8 students from the College of Sciences who are juniors and seniors. They're working internships at different companies. I'm talking about Smith and Nephew, computer support company, different companies. And some of these students have already been offered internships. Now, guess what? The barrier was taken away because the donor provided their pay. so the company didn't have to, right? So it's connect. Now, this is an alumni because we're talking about alumni, right? So it's connecting
Right.
these students with employers and alleviating their barriers to where it can turn into some type of full-time or part-time position while they're in school, right? Um, having a like I said, having alumni on campus to answer student questions, we're very careful and mindful not to give out people's personal information because we don't want people to be, inundated with students or whatever. But we have a good group of alumni that engage with our events and our programs. Like for example, we have the UC Takeover that's happening tomorrow. Okay, we have about 7 or 8 alumni from various industries who's going to come in. They're going to be at a table. Students can come up and they're going to talk to students about AI, right? Because we know it's not going anywhere. They're going to talk to students about professionalism and how do you prepare yourself for a career fair. They're going to talk to students about professionalism and what's appropriate to wear, right? They're going to have these conversations and students can ask questions. Now, these are our alumni that are doing that. Now, of course, our career services people will be there as well at the same table. But we have someone from the Memphis Grizzlies that's going to come in and talk to students about marketing and their social media blueprint. Like, what does that look like, and how can that negatively and positively affect you? Now, if a student comes in, have a good attitude, and make that connection, now I know someone that works for the Grizzlies, right? That's the power of alumni networking and partnership.
That's awesome. Alumni, if you are listening, please connect with our career services because our students need you and you have something to offer the university and our students. So definitely want to make sure that you're connected so that you too can give back in the same
Absolutely.
or in new ways, new innovative ways. Um, there's a parent who asked if you all work with disability resources for students or maybe vocational rehabilitation to provide specialized career preparation services for students who may be dealing with a disability, whether that's a learning or, a physical disability. So, do you all work with DRS to help
Well,
students in that aspect?
well, kudos to that parent, whoever asked that question, and that question is personal to me because I actually lead that program on our campus.
Okay.
To answer your question directly, we do partner with DRS. Uh, I like to just say students because a lot of times students don't even they aren't even aware of their disabilities because it's so broad. And I learned that through this program. Um, program is initiated WRP, the Workforce Recruitment Program. We've worked with that program here in our office for the last 5 years. Now that's directly through the federal government. So we have students who they start off with getting the marketing from me. It goes out college wide every week up until the deadline. Have a certain time to submit their application, their interests, etc. And then from there, I take the group of students who have put in their application, and we start the career education from day one. They're going to be with me for about 3 weeks to a month, just learning different things, how to prepare, etc. Then they'll be handed off to a federal employee, and they're going to do a mock interview with that federal employee. And from there, if the position aligns with what they're looking for, they can get a job offer. Now, those same students can apply. If they don't get an offer in that time, they can apply the next phase. But I've seen several students to get hired from that program from the University of Memphis. So, yes, again, it's called WRP, the Workforce Recruitment Program. Now, with the government, and I'm not going to get into too deep into this political stuff, but the way things are going with the federal government, I don't know what that's going to look like moving forward. But the last 5 years has been, very successful. So yeah,
Well, hopefully they will see the value and continue that funding because it's so important to make sure that we're serving all people and all students. So I
yeah,
appreciate you for your work with that. with that program.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah.
Alrighty, so our next question, you kind of touched on this a little bit, so you can just kind of give it again. But what career-related events does your office host throughout the academic year? If you just want to touch on the major ones one more time.
Sure, Kate. Like I said, we offer two all majors career fairs where you have, I mean, our person that leads that, her name is Brooke Dow. Brooke can have anywhere from 70 to 80 employers on campus from various industries. She does a tremendous job at helping students connect with our employers. KWS, which I run that area, out at the last one, I think we had 25 to 30 employers on campus. And that's from all majors. I know people hear Kimmons Wilson and they think hospitality, food, tourism, but no, there are hotels who need accountants. There are hotels who need medical people, et cetera. So they have an all majors career fair as well. You have several networking events that alumni are involved on campus as well. So those are just some of the events that we have to connect students with those employers.
Thank you so much, Cortez. So, how can parents and family members, and this is kind of going to be a two-part question.
Mhm.
So, how can parents and family members best support their students in utilizing the services that you all offer effectively? But then on the flip side, how can parents and family members get involved with your office? Are there any volunteer opportunities, or maybe they're an alumni?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, so if you could maybe address both sides of that question. Yeah.
sure. I mentioned this earlier. The parent is just so important to the student success. So getting involved is definitely, you the first thing I would say is just be encouraging. Encourage your student to contact career services early. They are, a freshman, stay on them about contacting career services early. The earlier they can get in and cultivate their relationship with a career specialist, the better for them. Versus, I've seen it firsthand, a freshman that's coming in versus a person who is a senior and they're graduating in a semester. They don't have a cover letter. They don't even understand why they need one. They don't understand how to be confident in their interviewing or how to do proper research on the company that they're interviewing. Just don't want to be in that position. I would also say normalize career exploration. As a parent, if a student comes to you and they don't know exactly what they want to do, that's okay. Like I mentioned earlier, they're not alone. Encourage them to explore, to try things that they may not. Now, we don't encourage or promote unpaid internships, but if your student is just exploring, chances are the more things that they're experiencing, it's going to trigger something within them to say, hey, you know what? I really like this. Or like I like to call it, you're looking before you leap. Before you commit to that major, God bless you. Before you commit to that major, you've already kind of tampered around with some things, and you say to yourself, oh well, I know I wouldn't want to do that every day. Versus in your mind, you can see what a nurse does, and you're like, oh, I want to help people. Then once you actually get into it, you're like, no, this is not for me. So I like to call it looking before you leap. Also, I would encourage parents to help students build critical thinking skills. A lot of times, and I'm not a parent, but I still have enough common sense to see it. A lot of times parents are a crutch. They want to do everything for the student. No, ask open-ended questions so that the student can actually think through and give them something. So, well, what does that mean? For example, you may say, well, what job are you going to get? That's a very direct question, and it can be a lot of pressure versus saying, hey, in your major, how are you connecting that with your passion? And now it forces the student to think and give you like a something you just asked them, if that makes sense. So those are a few things I would say for that first part. Um, It remind me again of what was the second part of your question. I'm sorry.
So the second part is just how can parent and family members connect with your office? Maybe get involved some kind of way through volunteerism, or even if they're an alumni, or if they know people, like what are some ways they can connect?
Okay. Well, I'm going to drop my email in this chat, or you can do it for me, so people can reach out. But just off the top of my head, if you are in positions of authority where you're making decisions, or hiring decisions, definitely connect with us. If you are an expert in your field and you want to come out, and talk to students about different things. If you are hiring, we have space where you can come on campus and just, hire some of our University of Memphis students, because we do have some great students who are eager and ready to work. One thing about our students that I've noticed is, even if a student is doing, 20 to 30 hours, 20 hours, or a heavy load, with their education,
Mhm.
students are still resilient enough, to still try to find a job part time. We are very, very big on students' education, so we're not looking for students to try to work 30 hours while they're doing 12 to 15 hours in school,
Right.
because we want them to finish. So those are some ways that, you can definitely partner with our office.
Awesome. Alrighty. So just to round us out, do you have any final thoughts or little nuggets of wisdom for parents and family members as they navigate kind of supporting their students' career planning, or just any final, nuggets of wisdom that you want to share with everyone?
Um, Again, not to sound cliche or like emotional, but I think it's so important for parents to celebrate their students' activity versus the outcome. Well, what does that mean? You may have a student that's living at home with you that may not be working, they're in college. So if the student is actively going to workshops, actively going to events, actively on LinkedIn trying to connect, celebrate that versus focusing on where you're not working right now. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Because it's going
Yeah.
to encourage the student to keep going. Because again, there are people my age that are still, with PhDs or whatever, that are still struggling to find work. So celebrate the steps that the students are taking toward their goal versus them actually obtaining the actual goal. Is a I'm not going to say a nugget of wisdom, but that's just what's on my heart to say. Because I have a lot of conversations with students, and to be quite frank, a lot of students are hurting.
Hmm.
You know, this it's very competitive, and when you have students who are continually hearing no, or they're not hearing anything at all,
Mm.
but they're taking 15 to 30 minutes of their time doing assessments and filling out applications, and don't even have the decency to say if they're going to get an interview or not.
Hmm.
And it happens over and over and over. Like I said, that can lead to some mental, depression. It can lead to some sadness. It can lead to you thinking, is a degree worth it? It can lead to you thinking, am I good enough?
Hmm.
Right. So
Hmm.
again, I just feel like celebrating students' efforts and where they're trying to go is very, very important. So I'll leave you
Yeah.
with that. I just want to also say, uh, phenomenal job at these questions. You guys really had me, um, and I just appreciate, the kind of questions, because I feel like the questions that you ask are very relevant to what's going on in society. These
Hmm.
students are paying a lot of money, and getting a return on their investment is at the top of our list as far as priorities.
Right, right. And it's important and a priority for the parents and family members who are oftentimes, helping to fund their collegiate education, and really want, overall the parents and the families, they ask these questions because they want to, for one, know how they can support their student better. And two, they want their student to succeed and reach those goals that they set out to reach for. Even like you said, why did I go to college? Why am I here? I'm here so that I can launch a career, a successful
Right.
career. And
Right.
so everything that you all are doing is lending to that. And we hope that family members feel more supported and that they feel more aware and informed so that they can continue to help their students to get to those end goals there. So on the screen now, we have the contact information, just the general information for career services, and also in the chat, I've listed Mr. Washington's information, his direct email address there. And if you have any questions or if you forget this information, feel free to reach out to Parent and Family Services and we'll get you connected with Cortez or with Career Services and his team. But we want to thank you so much for all of this
Thank you
information that you've
guys.
shared, for the barrage of questions. You've answered them so thoroughly and eloquently, actually. And we just really appreciate what you all do and the value that you all bring to students and to the University of Memphis. And we wouldn't be a university, really, an effective university, without you all and what you all bring. So we thank you for taking the time to talk to families, to answer these questions, and to really, to invest and pour into students. And we see the passion come, I see it coming through how you've answered and some of the things that you've shared and the wisdom and things that you've brought forth. So we appreciate that. I do want to remind families that we have our final care packages on sale now. We talk about support ways you can support your student. This is a very popular way, a very tangible way, purchasing them a finals care package, because that is a time where students are stressful. They're trying to finish strong, and so these care packages just kind of shows that support in a tangible way. It includes a reusable branded container with snacks, spirit items, and a personalized note of encouragement from the family member who purchased it. So students always look forward to that. So we remind you that those are on sale. You can go to our website to purchase those. And if you have a student who has reached that point where they're about to graduate in May of this year, then we also have graduation yard signs, because as Cortez even mentioned, we want to celebrate our students and we want you to be proud and share that excitement with the world by putting a yard sign saying how proud you are of your U of M graduate. So those are also on sale. And you can reach out to us if you have any issues or if you need assistance with purchasing a yard sign or a care package. Lastly, we have our next Tiger Talk. The final one for this semester is going to be a good one, especially if you are an incoming or newly admitted family. Supporting your student, what to expect at summer new student orientation. It's always a mystery, but we have a whole onboarding process, not just for your student, but for you as well. And so we want to kind of give you a sneak peek of what you can expect to gain during that session when you come with your student to new student orientation this summer. So that's going to be April 8th at 1 o'clock here online. You can access the link to on our website. Just click on events and services and then Tiger Talks, and it'll take you right there. But we thank you for taking the time to join us today live, or if you're watching the video, taking the time to access the video on our YouTube channel. When we want you to let us know what you are interested in, what you need as far as information, so that we can continue to make these Tiger Talks relevant and important to you and helpful to your family. So thank you again for your time. We will see you all on the next Tiger Talk. Thank you so much and have a blessed day.
You do the same.